Good morning, students. We are having a lecture on theory and practice of translation. Today we are going to look at Realia and the ways how to translate Realia from one language to another. First of all, let's find out what Realia is. Realia are culturally loaded words. In terms of theory and practice of translation, Realia are equivalent lacking words. Equivalent lacking words are the words that signify notions lacking in the target language and culture. Some scholars and linguists call them culture-bound words. Let's talk about the reasons for using equivalent lacking words. They may be various. The first one is extra-linguistic. Here we say about the lack of a similar notion in the target culture and language. For example, let's take the Kazakh word sohum. Kazakh people know what it is, but the English do not know this. And when rendering this word, this notion in English, you will have to apply the so-called explicatory translation, and your translation will be the following. This is a kind of meat prepared in late autumn to be eaten in winter and spring. The next reason is lexical. Here we say about a lack of one word equivalent in the target language and culture. For example, the English word exposure cannot be translated into Russian through one word. You will have to use at least 4 words to translate this English word, this English lexical unit. So, you will translate it as оказание внешнего физического воздействия. The next reason is stylistic. Here we say about differences in connotation. For example, the English word buck will be translated as dollar. But here we can say about a slight stylistic connotation and difference between the English and Russian versions, because the English word buck is a slang word, is a colloquial word. The Russian equivalent dollar is a neutral word, and of course this is a little improper translation. So the next, let's talk about culture-bound words in terms of typing, in terms of categorization. And the first type is unique. Here we say about a lack of a similar notion in the target culture and language. Consequently, a lack of similar word, equivalent word in the target language. For example, the Russian word вытрезвитель. So the next type is analogs. Here we say about the presence of the similar notions in both languages. For example, in Russian and English, but with different namings. For example, the Russian word дедовщина will be translated into English as hazing. The next type is similar words with different functions. Here we say about similar words and phrases, but different communicative functions. For example, cuckoo's call. Cuckoo's call is asked for by an American girl when she wants to know, or in the case she wants to know when she will get married. When cuckoo's call is asked for by a Russian person, it means that the person wants to know how long she or he will live. The next type is language lacuna or similar notions. Here we say about the same notions, the similar notions, but with different representations. For example, the clover leaf will be translated as дорожная развязка в виде клеверного листа. Now let's talk about culture-bound words in terms of semantic fields. The first biggest one is toponyms or geographical names. For example, the Great Lakes. Or Almaty, Astana, Chicago, New York. So the next, anthroponyms or people's names. For example, Jack London, Winston Churchill, Shokan Walikhanov, Abay Kunanbayev. The next group is zoonyms. Here we say about the species of animals who don't live or don't inhabit or don't exist in some other areas besides the only one. The next group is education terms. Here we say about special education terms peculiar to the country, to the nation. For example, A grade, A student, high school, pionierский лагерь. So the next one is traditions and customs, culture-bound words. For example, Halloween, Maslenitsa, Nowruz. So the next group is titles and headlines. Here we say about the titles of literary works, for example, Война и мир, or Vanity Fair, or Han Mentier, and titles of headlines of newspapers. So, for example, the Financial Times, the Newsweek, the Zeitung. So the next group is everyday life words. For example, sushi, kilt, kimono, kabuki. So the next group is history terms. For example, the Civil War, War of Independence, Великая Отечественная война. So the next group is agonism. Here we say about institutions names or organizations names. For example, United Nations Organization or General Motors or Samsung Electronics. And the last group is social terms. For example, House of Commons, the White House, Akhorda, the Kremlin. Now let's talk about the ways of translating Realia. There are not so many ways of translating Realia. The main ones are transcription, transliteration, and calc. Transcription is the phonetic reproduction of an original word. In the target language, for example, avenue will be transcribed as avenue. Transliteration, here we say about the graphic reproduction of an original word in the target language. For example, the Russian word Sputnik will be transliterated as Sputnik. So the next explicatory. Here we say about the explanation when the translator tries to explain the phenomenon, the thing, the object. So, for example, the word bread line will be translated as очередь безработных за бесплатным питанием. So, and the last is lexical substitution, when a translator uses substituting word or phrase in the target language. For example, Secretary of State may be translated as Министр иностранных дел. So that's all I wanted to tell you about at today's lecture. I hope you found it interesting. And in the practical classroom, we will learn how to translate, how to render Realia, English Realia into Russian, and vice versa. Goodbye.